In today's junk journal with me, I'm going to be working on the prompt of embossed for junk journal January. And when I put this prompt in the playlist, I knew I liked the look of embossed pages, but I don't own an embossing machine and I don't own a heat gun and I don't own any of the embossing powders. So what was I going to do with the prompt of embossed? And I figured some of you might be in the same position too, where you don't have all these fancy materials. And, at the end of the day, we are just junk journaling. So I was thinking, what can I use that I already have lying around to create the embossed effect? So embossing is basically where you have a design that is raised on the page, and I had some of this black lace lying around, and I figured that I could use this as a way of creating a raised design on my page. So I just started by trimming it to the length of my page. I decided to add it along the left hand side here, and as you can see, it clashes a lot with the page that I've got going on. And so if you've also got a bit of ribbon or lace that you're using and it's not the right colour necessarily for what we're doing, then you can still use it, because essentially what I'm doing with this is I'm layering over some white acrylic paint, just super simple, in a way to almost like blend it into the page a little bit, blend it into the background, and make it look as if it's more part of the page, and in that way have the embossed effect. So I did have to layer this fairly thickly onto the lace because the one I chose was obviously black and I was trying to make it white. So it did take a few different layers, and I ended up using just a really small paintbrush because I wanted to make sure that I was getting the paint into all of the like nooks and crannies, because there were a lot of details with this piece of lace that I'd chosen, and so I wanted to make sure that I tried to make it look as seamless as possible in order to give that embossed look that I wanted just along the left hand side of the page. So because this was something I was experimenting with and I wasn't completely sure how it was going to turn out, that's why I decided to just focus it on the left hand side of the page here. I do have some thicker versions of this that I could have used, but I didn't want something that was too bulky for this page. So you'll notice the lace that I picked, it was fairly thin. It wasn't anything too thick for this page. I'm sure you could experiment with using a thicker lace if you wanted to, but for the look and feel I was going for with this page, I knew I wanted it to be sort of slightly raised, but not like 3D and taking over the page, if that makes sense. So you can see there how it adds a subtle detail with the white paint, and I carried that over onto some of the other paper on the background as well, just to try and blend it in. And then what I did is I came in with a layer of coffee staining over the top of this, just in an effort to again try and make it all sort of blend into one. So I applied it to the book paper there that I had as my background, and then I also carried it over onto on top of the white paper as well, and also where I had applied the white paint over the top of the lace, and then I just dried that so that I had a nice even surface to work on and to add my collage to. And so I then just decided to add a little bit of extra white paint, because when I had added the coffee, it kind of lifted a little bit the paint that I'd originally added on as the first layer. So this just gave me the opportunity to sort of refine almost how I wanted this to look. And I guess if I had to describe how it was looking, it was really giving like sort of shabby chic almost when it came to the background. And this is definitely as well, I think, something that's a lot more art journally, just in terms of the technique, because obviously I'm using the paint, but after I had fixed up the lace, I then came in with some collage and added that to the page as well. So this really felt like it was sort of a mix of all different techniques, but having the prompt of embossed sort of kick-started what I wanted to do with this page and just gave me that idea to try something new, because like I said, I hadn't done anything like this in my journal before, and I thought this would be a fun way to try and like DIY the embossed effect. So I hope this encourages you to try and experiment with the things that you already have and see where they can take you in terms of the prompts, even if you don't necessarily think you have the right supplies. Like, obviously, there's no right supplies to have. Like, you can literally use whatever you want. Like, I think that's such a fun thing about junk journaling is that you can use literally anything and turn it into something creative and use it within, your spreads and your backgrounds as ephemera. There's so many different creative ways that we can use all of these papers and leftovers within our junk journal pages. So as you'll see, I kept it quite simple in terms of the collage that I actually added to this page, but I did end up coming back to this after I had sat down and journaled because I thought I wanted to just leave this as the visual. And when I stepped away from it and was thinking about it, I thought, no, actually, it does need text on it. So I ended up doing some stamping, as you'll have seen at the beginning, and I'll show you again the final page. And I think that really did bring it together because even though I added, here like the little bit of washi tape and I added some scribbles, I was at that point where I thought something might be missing, but I wasn't sure what. And when you just don't want to necessarily do something straight away in case it's like the wrong decision, like in quotation marks, but like I didn't want to add something and then like regret it. So I was actually quite glad that I didn't immediately add something on top of this whilst I was filming this, which I guess is another thing, and it's a whole different topic about like journaling on camera when I have that like bit of pressure with, the cameras rolling. I've got to do something that would look good, but I just left it for there, and you'll see there just adding that bit of cream cardstock with the little stamps I think really helped to pull this together. And in golden hour you can really see how the embossed lace stands out on the edge of this page.